Good morning, lovelies. What breaks your heart? Let's talk about that. Jesus, coffee. So, what breaks your heart? What are you passionate about that you feel really needs a change in this world? So, let's kind of talk about that. I want to tell you about a gentleman named Nehemiah. So let's kind of talk about Nehemiah. Nehemiah lived in the times of the Persian Empire. So, shortly before Christ was born. So Nehemiah, like I said, he's a Jewish man who was a servant he was a cupbearer. He was a servant for the king of Persia, lived in the capital city of Susa. So, Jewish man, so he, was like 1,000 miles away from his home in Jerusalem and reached out to find out how everybody in Jerusalem was doing. And good morning, Craig. What's going on, brother? Was distraught to find out when he had reached out. He had found out that good morning, Ron. The walls of Jerusalem were destroyed and the gates of Jerusalem were burned with fire after the attack by Babylon. And people had been taken into captivity. They were actually taken into captivity for 70 years. So how did Nehemiah react to this? What was Nehemiah's reaction to this? So I'm going to read through verse 4 in Nehemiah 1, and let's hear how Nehemiah reacted to the finding out that his home, the walls around his home were destroyed, and good morning, Becky. And the gates were burned. So his people, his home had no protection. Let's find out what his response to this was. So it was when I heard these words that I sat down and wept and mourned for many days. I was fasting and praying before the God of heaven. So you hear that? So he didn't just weep and cry and go, okay. He sat down so he wouldn't fall down and pass out. He sat down and wept for many days. That's a broken heart over what had happened to Jerusalem. Now, Nehemiah goes on to do great things, but what broke his heart was what broke God's heart. How do we know that broke God's heart? Because God brought that discipline on Jerusalem for all of their wickedness, and Israel for all of their wickedness. So what breaks your heart? What is it that you're passionate about that breaks your heart? Is it poverty? Is it abortion? Is it divorce? Is it war in Ukraine? What is it? Because, guys, it's not the same thing for all of us. We all have different pieces of rubble pieces of God's heart and our heart. Rubble. So what do we care about that God cares about? It's different things for different people. I can tell you that as I sat in church yesterday and Pastor Rudd had us go up and take a piece of rubble and write on it, what was our rubble? What did we care about that we wanted to give to God. And then he had us take one home so we have a constant reminder. So mine is the lost. Mine is anybody that doesn't know the Lord. My heart hurts for anybody that doesn't know the Lord. My heart hurts for anybody that, if this world was to end today, if Jesus was to come back today, anybody that would go through that tribulation, my heart hurts for them. My heart hurts for anybody who walks around this world not knowing the peace and the comfort that come from a life with the Lord, that come from a life in Christ. That's mine. We're all built differently. Did I feel some conviction that my heart doesn't hurt the same way for the war in Ukraine? Yeah, I felt a little conviction over that, but that's not how he's built me. He's built me with more of a soft heart for the lost, to help the lost find their way. So, what breaks your heart? That's a question that you can answer. And if you don't know, take it to the Lord in prayer. I'm actually going to post a song called Jesus, Friend of Sinners. And in that verse, they actually use that as a lyric in their verse. Break our heart for what breaks yours. And that's really it. When we have a heart that's sensitive to the Lord, then what breaks his heart is what also breaks ours. It's what he gives us passion about, so that we can go make that change in the world, so that we can go affect that area. For Nehemiah, it was the fact that Jerusalem was defenseless. It had no walls. So Nehemiah made that change. And great book, go read it. It's only 11 chapters. 11? Hold one. 11 chapters? 14 chapters. 14 chapters. I stand corrected. Nehemiah's 14 chapters. It's a pretty short read. But what breaks your heart, guys? And that's a question for you to answer, and that's a question for you to think about. Do I care about what doesn't affect my world? So, you guys have a fantastic day. Think about your piece of rubble. Think about what your piece of rubble is that affects you. And you guys have a fantastic Monday. Great start to the week. I love you guys. We'll be back tomorrow with whatever Dad wants to talk about.